What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the 4th Fatherhood podcast, a podcast for fathers by fathers, where we talk about the four pillars of fatherhood, which are faith, family, finance, and fitness. And it's kind of an impromptu one, man. I just had a little extra time, and I figured I would jump on here and talk about a couple of things that I've been thinking about. I typically would do one of those, midweek podcast episodes where we talk about, the conversation in the comments, what's going on social media, anything that's popped up recently. But this particular one was something that popped up, but also some of the things that I've been thinking about. And I was looking on, I think it was on TikTok about a week or two ago, and I saw a post from Ricky Smiley where he said that father was a verb. And I want to take that a step further, maybe even a step back, and say that manhood is a verb. A verb is an action word, right? A word that requires action. I don't think that when you're a father, and this is what people say, like there's a difference between dad and father, or father and dad, whichever one you hold more value in. People say, anybody can be a daddy, takes a real man to be a father, or anybody can be a father, takes a real man to be a dad. And it just really depends on where you put value in a word. But either way, what they're trying to say is that one of those titles, whichever one, again, you put more value in, is the one that requires you to do work, right? Being a father or being a dad and just, having sex with a woman and, she gets pregnant, now you're a dad, right? Or a father, whatever one, right? I'll say dad for the purpose of this podcast. You're a dad, right? Actually, no, I'll say father, right? Because dad just feels more comfortable. It's more familiar. It's more of a common term. So, you father the child, right? You are the father, like Maury says, right? Have to have sex that, 2 minutes of pleasure, that 9 seconds of orgasm. And then now you're a father 9 months, 10 months later. You didn't do there's no action required. After that, there's nothing else that you need to do. In order to be a dad, there's action that needs to be taken. There are things that you need to do on a daily and regular basis, right? There's so many things you do from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed that help create and build that dad and child relationship, right? When we talk about other dads, or we talk to other dads, there are very, very similar things that are going on. If you look at my social media, there's dudes from all over the world, literally, of different ages, different religions, different cultural backgrounds, different races, all dads, right? And that's because they are taking the action on a daily basis to be involved and present in their children's lives, to be the person that their child needs to be a better version of themselves. So fatherhood or dadhood is about you taking the action, right? It is something that is necessary for the betterment of your children and ultimately the betterment of your future. Because the way that you raise your children, the way that you dad your children, if we're going to use it as a verb, determines the future of the world, right? If we all get together, we actively dad in a way that is both positive, progressive, we can change the future. And it won't take long, right? It'll take a generation, right? If every dad in the world right now decided to get on the same page and parent our children in a way that would bring us a better future, it would only take for those children to grow up, become adults, and then they would be able to effectively change the world. The problem is there's a lot of guys who only take the action of intercourse and never get past that, right? Never intend to get past it, never had any intention to be a dad, maybe never had a dad. Everybody has a father, but not everybody has a dad. And so they don't know how to be a dad. They have no interest in being a dad. A lot of people will look at it and be like, well, I was raised by a single mother, so I never needed a man. I never needed my father. And so they don't put a high value on being a dad. And society, let's be honest, especially in America, does not put a high enough presence on being a dad. even in the stuff that you see on TV. I remember when I was young, you look at dads on TV, and dad was like some fat dude on the couch. Maybe not fat, and maybe that's an offense to people. Some dude on the couch, sitting on the couch, overweight, wasn't active in the kid's life. He went to work, he came home, and he sat back, stuffed his hand in his pants, and watched TV or drank a beer. Or he's fumbling, bumbling. He wasn't smart. He was a big goof. All of these things that we see is the butt of every joke. That was kind of, what we saw a lot of times dad being, right? And that's not anything to necessarily aspire to. Like, I never as a kid looked up and was like, man, I can't wait to be like Al Bundy and live in my past and be nagged by my wife and go home to my kids that I don't necessarily like. And sit on my couch and watch TV, right? Work a job that I hate, and then come home to a life that I'm not exactly happy with, right? Where I have to continue to look back at my past. Or Homer Simpson, right? The Simpsons, which is amazingly still on after like 30 years. Homer's a goof, right? He's not smart. He's the butt of every joke, literally of every episode. He is doing the best that he can, but he's not a great example or something I would strive to be as a father. Now, there definitely were positive role model father figures, but let's look at like that 70s show. Red was a good father by all intents and purposes, but he was mean. He generally didn't like his kids on the outside, would do anything for him, would kill for him, worked hard for him, loved his wife, loved his kids, had those heart-to-hearts time and time again. But the character that you knew, that you saw on a daily and episode basis was a grumpy, frustrated old man. Now, nobody is aspiring to be that. You have other examples of fathers. Family Matters. Carl Winslow was a great example of a father. But how many years was that show around? Not a whole lot, right? It was around for a bit of time. And there's plenty of these examples of good fathers on TV. But then also they're always kind of juxtapose these really goofy, aloof. It was never like the dad idea or the model of a father was going to be like super positive Superman, right? Like, it would be really dope to have. And that's why I like The Incredibles, to have a father as a superhero, right? Because you look at pretty much every other superhero and they're single dudes just living their life. Batman, single dude. Superman, single dude. Black Panther, until now, was a single dude, no kids, right? We don't really see it as much as we should. And our fathers are our first superheroes, and then we get our next superheroes, and those ones actually are doing these amazing things. They're flying, they're scaling buildings, they get shot, but they don't die, but they aren't fathers. And so I think it becomes tough for a young man, especially if you don't have a father present in the home. It becomes tough for a young man to see examples of fatherhood that are not positive or goofy or are not what we would strive to be or want to be, and then be like, you know what, when I grow up, I'm going to be a dad. It's tough, right? But being a dad, again, is one of the most rewarding things. I posted something from Andy Samberg the other day where he's talking about, like, nobody tells you before you're going to be a dad what it's really going to be like, which is why I started this podcast and which is why I started the social media stuff. But people are like, oh, it's wonderful, it's amazing, heaven's going to open up. And that is all true, right? It is wonderful. It is amazing. The first time you see your child is like staring God in the face. It's all amazing. But there are these other things that come along with it that really nobody prepares you for, and nobody talks about. And then once you get on the other side, like, welcome to head, like, dudes are like, see, I could have told you. Like, no, but you didn't, right? You didn't tell me. So I'd appreciate if you would. And that's why, like I said, I started the podcast and I started talking to other dads to kind of get these ideas of what fatherhood is outside of what I've seen from other people. But in all of that I just said, right, I talked about there being good examples of fatherhood, bad examples of fatherhood. I think what we have to realize is just like manhood, fatherhood is multidimensional, right? A father is not just one thing, just like a man is not just one thing. A father and a man, very similarly, right? Because I personally believe that fatherhood is the next level of manhood, right? You are a boy, then you are a man, and then the next thing for you to do is to become a father, right? It's that next level. And if manhood is multidimensional, if a man cannot be defined by one word or one set of words, if a man is everything he needs to be when he needs to be it, then a father is just an advanced version of that. A father is everything that he needs to be when he needs to be it for himself and others, right? There's another layer to it, right? He is emotionally sound. He is physically capable. He is financially capable. He is doing all of the things that are necessary in order to provide a life for his family that is comfortable for him and them, right? Doesn't mean you have to have a certain amount of money or a certain amount of things, right? And when I say comfortable, I mean like everybody's living a life that they can be happy with, right? You're providing a certain amount of love and care. You're teaching lessons. You're preparing them for the future. You're protecting them from outside forces. All of those things, right? And so, if manhood is multidimensional, fatherhood is just as multidimensional. There's so many levels and layers. It's like an onion. There's so many layers to fatherhood that I think we look at dads, and like I said, like you look at those shows, and there's just a one-dimensional dad. Homer Simpson was a one-dimensional dad. He was just a goofball, and every once in a while you see an episode where he did something that matters, right, for his kids or out of love for his kids. And maybe Homer's misunderstood. Maybe I need to go back and look and take a deeper look at it. But that's what I got from it, right? Red, maybe he's misunderstood. Maybe he's not a frustrated, grumpy old man. Maybe that is his person. He's stoic, doesn't show emotion, and that's what we think fathers are supposed to be. So then we grow up and we become men, and then we become fathers, and we don't know how to show our families emotion because that's how our father was, or that's the examples of fathers that we've seen. But the reality is that you can be emotional or emotionally intelligent. I won't say emotional. I think being emotional is kind of a negative connotation of emotion. I think you can be emotionally intelligent and self-aware and socially aware and able to manage your emotions and teach your children how to manage their emotions as a man, right? With masculine energy, which I think is important, because I think another thing that has been really big on social media is this whole idea of what one parent can or can't do, right? One parent can do this, or one parent can do that. Like single moms can't do this, single dads can't do this, moms can't do this. Listen, everybody is capable of doing anything and everything, right? But that doesn't mean that they should, right? You may be capable of steering a car with your feet, but that doesn't mean you should, right? You may be capable of a flight, but as a human, you're only going to fly for so long. Technically, you're falling, right? So it's certain things that we say and we wear as a badge of honor that maybe we shouldn't. And before I start rambling too much, I'm going to jump into my notes really quick because I had one more thing that I want to talk about before I hop off of here. Okay. So 2 things. I think a lot of times as dads, especially for those of us, and I'm not one, but those of us who did not grow up with a father or don't understand the dynamic, didn't have the most present father, didn't have a great example of fatherhood. We look at it and we go, because of that, there's a great probability that I'm not going to be a good father. I just don't know how to be, right? I've never seen a good, successful father-son or father-daughter relationship, so I don't know what to do, right? And there's a high probability that I'm not going to do well with it. Well, here's the other side of probability. The other side of probability is possibility, right? It may not be highly probable that you're going to be a good dad, but it's also highly possible that you could be, right? So I think a lot of times we are so focused on the probability or the potential that things could go wrong that we never look at the possibility or the potential that things could go right, right? So I would say, if you're a new dad, expecting dad, and you didn't experience it, you never had a father figure in your life, or you didn't have your biological father in your life and you're looking at that, I mean, man, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do, which a lot of us, I mean, nobody really knows what to do until they start doing it. You have to look at it and go, it may not be probable that I'm going to be a good father, but it is very possible that I am going to be a good father. I'm going to take the action to make it possible. Remember, fatherhood is a verb, right? It's an action word. So while it may not be probable, it is definitely possible that I am going to be a good father, right? Here's the other thing, last thing, and I'm going to get off of here. Along the same lines, when you don't have the resources, you become resourceful. And I'm hoping that for you guys that are new fathers, expecting fathers, grew up without a father or didn't have a very present father, that you are looking at this, that you're listening to this podcast because you're looking for resources to help you in your fatherhood, right? When you don't have resources, you become resourceful. Like, for example, if you don't have a lot of money, right, but you need to get something, you find ways, you become resourceful in order to find ways to get that thing, right? If you don't have an example of fatherhood, well, you don't have that resource. You don't have your dad to run to ask questions. You don't have a male role model to run to ask questions. Well, then you got to get resourceful. You got to start seeking it out. Maybe it's somebody on social media. Maybe it is a podcast. Maybe it is a YouTube page. Maybe it's a man in your community. This is something that I tell some of the single mothers that I talk to is your child's father will be your natural resource to provide that male role model, that positive influence. If that is not the case, then you need to get resourceful. There are men in the community. There are coaches. There are religious leaders. There are relatives of yours, uncles, cousins, brothers, your dad. All of those people are now resources. So you have to become resourceful. And there may be more than one. It may be multiple, right? You may need to put them into a community group where there are multiple men that are going to nurture and give that male, masculine energy and male influence and be positive role models. I think we look at it and like, oh, daddy isn't here. And we just give up, right? Or his father, really wish his father would be in his life. I really wish my dad was here. And that's cool for a little while, but eventually you have to get resourceful, right? You cannot continue to live in a place where you don't have resources and not being resourceful. Like you have to actively seek it out. I was talking to, like I said, I was talking to a mom the other day, and she's just like, his dad is gone. My dad, I never knew him, so I don't have a grandfather. My brothers are not doing well. And so we don't have anybody in my family that I can, lean on to be a male role model for him. And she's like, I don't like having men in the house. I don't want, some guy off the street to come in and make that the role model for him. So what do I do? Well, one, you can Google, right? Get resourceful. Google mentorships in your area. There's tons of them, right? It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of them, but there are. There are mentorship programs all over the world, all over the country. It may not be right in your city if you live in somewhere rural, but they are out there, right? I mean, when I was young, there was the Big Brothers program, right? That's all that was male influences for young men. So you can do that. Put them in sports, right? And there's coaches, right? Go to your church, right? There's male role models there. But I think the thing that we have to look for when we are being resourceful and trying to find a father figure or being resourceful and trying to find a male role model is a couple things. And I talked to Ernest James about this on a few episodes ago. He was talking about what he suggests, single mothers or young men who are looking for a father figure role model for themselves or for their child, is that there has to be some qualifications to this, right? You can't just pick any dude, right? It can't just be anybody. It has to be somebody who actually wants that role, who actually wants to be a role model, right? Because there's a bunch of dudes out here, even good dudes. They're great dudes, great fathers, great men in general. But if they aren't actively trying to be a role model for somebody else, then putting your kid with them is not going to automatically make your kid, do it. Because I may be really good at fixing cars, but I'm not a mechanic, right? So if you bring your car to me, I'm cool with fixing my car, but I don't want to fix yours, right? And you know what I mean? Just putting them to any man is not good either, right? Because you can just, oh, my brother is a man and he's the only guy I got in my family, so I'm gonna have him go hang with my brother. Well, your brother may not be the best example, so you need to look for people who have the qualities that you are looking for, that you want your child to have, right? So one, they got to want to be a role model. Two, they have to have the qualities that you want your child to have. And then three, you have to also look at if you do, right, have this person as a role model for your child, are you going to make sure that they are able to be in the presence of this person often, right? Because one off is not enough, right? Oh, he went to hang out with so-and-so this weekend. Oh, he's going to be a good dad. There's got to be consistency, right? There may be a great role model in 3 cities over, and you look at this program, it's a great program. They do all these great things, but if you can only get there once or twice every couple of months, it's just not enough, right? So consistency, the want to be, and they have to have the qualities that you're looking for your child to learn and to grow in, right? Doing something over the next couple of weeks, and depending on when you guys hear this, it may have already started. There is an app on your phone, an app that you already dads. This is for the dads, single moms, if you're listening. This may work for you too, but dads, this is for you. Look, man, we have been gifted with something that's a lot of times we don't even think we have. We don't know that we have. We don't use it, or we do use it, but we don't use it in a way that best supports us, that can help us become the men and the fathers that we want to be. Talking to a lot of guys who kind of run into the same issues, the same problems. And one of the things that we are struggling with is being present, right? How to be present, how to go out and provide, but also be present. And this is something that we have been gifted with, right? We don't even know that we have it, and it's right underneath our fingertips. It's on our phone. It's an app that we got absolutely free. When we bought our phone, no matter what we did, it was on there, right? If you have an email address, a Gmail specifically, if you have an email address, a Gmail address, you have this app on your phone and you have to use it. Even if you don't, you have an Apple phone, you have an iPhone, you have this app on your phone and you have to use it. This app helped me become a better man, a better father. I think I was doing a pretty good job up until this point, until I started using it and using it effectively and efficiently. It really helped me narrow down myself, where I'm spreading myself, the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm giving into my family, to my wife, to my children. And this is something I'll be talking about in the next couple of weeks. So Fridays, 5 p.m. Typically, when I drop the episodes of the podcast at 5 p.m. hour, at 5 o'clock, Fatherhood Friday, I'm actually going to be going live on Instagram at 4FitFatherhood, the number 4FitFatherhood. Just, kind of talking to you guys about that particular thing, how you can use it, how you can be efficient, how you can be effective, how you can be a better dad with it. Signing off, man. Thank you guys again for listening. Appreciate you, and I'll holler at you soon.